ultimately what happens is we go back into the collective consciousness of the universe. We're absorbed back into it. So that thing that God fractures, splinters off, and comes down here and embodies human form currently to the tune of about 8 billion of slivers, 8 billion slivers roaming around. When we die and get rid of that mortal body and go back into the collective consciousness, we're back into that oneness of it all. Like right now, I can easily say philosophically that you and I are one, Ryan, along
Right.
with everybody else in the world. But it's harder for us to appreciate because I'm sitting over here in my own body, in my own universe. But the moment that we depart, the past crossover, right, we're going to go back into that collective consciousness of the universe. And therefore, the ego will be stripped away and we'll be, we'll have a perfect understanding, perfect knowledge of all the things.
This is the way, Green Beret, where warriors talk about the weight they've carried.
Okay, welcome to the Awake Green Beret podcast, if we're going to call it a podcast. I was just telling my guest here, Ryan, that I don't know what to call this because he's the actual real deal, which I'm so grateful that he's come on because in a way, I know there's some insecurity on my part. So that'll be fun for us to explore while I'm hosting a professional here. But in any case, today's topic is casual conversations with the universe. But before I turn it over to Ryan for his more formal introduction, I'll just do a quick word from our sponsors. I keep telling people about the books. I have 3 out. This one is Larabelle and the Crazy Tree. It is a story about authenticity, and it's based on a tree that's right out my window here that my wife, and this is co-authored with my wife, but this is geared for 5 to 10-year-olds. And it's a story about embracing your authenticity and being your real self. So I have that. And then I want to put some emphasis on this one too, From Green Beret to Shamanism, One Man's Journey to Heal. By the way, this book here, with all of our books, all the proceeds go to charity. So this one goes to Donor Connect, which is the nonprofit that when my wife's son passed away, we made the decision to donate his organs, and that saved 6 lives. So all the proceeds from this one go to the Donor Connect, and this one, all the proceeds go to natural worship and to getting veterans into ceremony. And then not a paid endorsement, but I always talk about them, Olipop, the best soda out there, only 2 grams of sugar. It's completely plant-based. And it's great for your gut biome, which is great for your serotonin, which is great for your sense of peace and happiness. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ryan to get his introduction and fill in the blanks that I created, and then we'll kick it off.
Right on. Hey, well, Matt, thank you. Appreciate that introduction. I am a podcaster. I run Team Trek Podcast. He likes to call me a professional. I'm just a couple of years into it, so I don't know how you scale it. But anyway, I think this is going to be fine, Matthew. So thanks for inviting me. Looking forward to this conversation. And as I was saying earlier, man, I think I'm going to be mostly on the receiving end of the education. I mean, when we talk about the universe, like seemingly there's just so many things that we could talk about on it. I mean, when we get into even just like the vastness of the universe. So this is a broad topic, which,
Mm.
well, pun intended, right? Usually when we come in, we're going to talk about something kind of specific, and I think the universe being a topic, it's really hard to get real specific on it, but definitely looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And yeah, I think that that's a really good point too in and so just in case I should have said this, Ryan's a special forces soldier as well. And so coming from that place of special operations, special forces, uh, I always took that role as more than a job. Like to me, it was a profession, and we were professionals. We were considered the quiet professionals. So yeah, I very much see you as a mentor in ways. Again, I'm not trying to be at your level for anybody following the podcast. Like, this is more of like my pet hobby where I get to talk to just cool people, and then I just put it out there. And I always say, even in the recording, I never edit out. I'm like, we're just raw dogging this shit, meaning like we got no plan. We'll see what happens. And so you very much are an, in my eyes, a professional. So yeah, man, I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for that. So where are we starting, brother?
Well, really, with casual conversations, we can go anywhere. So, how about this? And maybe we pick up from where we left off with the last time you and I visited on your podcast, and any sort of questions that were lingering post ceremony or anything like that.
Okay, well, and I guess I kind of let the cat out of the bag a little bit. I do want to talk about the universe, right? I think this is an awesome topic, and when I'm in the studio, when I'm trying to listen, I'm trying to hear everything that you're talking about. You'd brought up something, and we just kind of glazed right over it. And it wasn't until I was kind of in my post editing, but you brought up the fact, and this is a crazy fact, and for you to just gloss over it really quickly. All right, so there are there are more galaxies, right? More galaxies out there than there are grains of sand on this planet. Okay, but that's not just the mind-blowing part right there. Because each one of these galaxies has billions of stars. Okay. To me that just we're somewhere inside of that, all of that going on, right? And
Yeah.
so when you look at it like that, when you think of everything that's out there that's all around us, you think of how perfect and precise everything has to be for us to exist. And then space is getting bigger. Like
Yes.
it's expanding,
Yep.
or they're saying that it's unfolding maybe. So I guess my point is there are things out there within our universe that haven't even been revealed to us yet, right?
True.
Like
Yeah.
things are so we're learning this all as like we're building the plane in flight. You know what I'm saying? There's still things that are just unfolding within our universe that we anyway.
No,
It
no,
took
that's
me a
good.
while what when I was editing and when I got to that port right there, like I had to stop for a couple hours and just try to wrap my mind around that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that like for me, one of the most interesting, what's the word I'm looking for? One of the more interesting realizations that I've had in this, this shamanic journey of mine is the idea that the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know. And that can be a little bit overwhelming at times because you're like, like I think in our earthly finite minds, it's like, okay, I got to learn these 10 things. And as I'm crossing them off my list, I can get the sense of accomplishment. I'm getting towards the end of my list. I'm going to finally, achieve completeness or, yeah, set the list aside. Right. When in reality, um, the 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 deeper I go, the bigger the list becomes. And so that becomes daunting in some respects, but in other respects, I look at it as also like, to me, it's a positive because it also seems to illustrate well, not illustrate, but it validates for me, the belief in God. Like you said, I really liked what you said about like the conditions that had to be met with such precision just for life here on earth to exist. To me, there's only one probable answer, and that is a creator.
Absolutely. I mean, I mean, for me, and because you and I have talked before, it kind of goes without saying, like this was created perfectly. But I guess my hang up on it is as vast and as large as it is. I mean, how there's so much out there. How do we have the egos that we do that we're so important, right? Like and I think that's the thing that was really a hang up for me, right? Is we think Earth is the center of everything and we're just, we are the most important, but we're moon dust.
Yeah. Well, here's an interesting way of looking at it that my mentor, Jonathan in Sweden, says very, very frequently. And in the way he describes it, if I'm not mistaken, he was studying with one of his mentors. And his mentor one time looked at him and said, Jonathan, you're the most important thing in the universe. And then said, and you're also nothing. And that's the paradox of it all. And in fact, like I was on a call today with a client, and we were talking about this very thing, ironically. And, I guess this is casual conversations of the universe. I should actually pause right there and say this. I always forget to say this up front, but big caveat up front, big disclaimer. By the way, these are just opinions. These are just, this is just the ramblings of a crazy old Green Beret shaman. Like, I don't know shit, like, to be honest with you. This is just speaking from my experience and, those late night cannabis induced thought rabbit holes I go down. But in any case, we were talking about that. And so when I think of universe, like I think of it like in almost like, in terms of Spanish or Latin with una, uni, uno being singular. And so if we look at the universe from a place of Latin language, it really is saying that the universe is singular. Well, wait a minute. I thought there was a parallel universe. Well, let's talk about that. So to me, in my mind, and again, we're getting into some far out crazy shit like 12 minutes in. So, good. It's going to be an exciting ride. I guess what I'm saying is I think that I personally am the God of my own universe, and it's singular, and you're the God of your own universe.
Mhm.
And when our universes collide, like right now we're talking about the multiverse.
Okay.
And so there's infinite, there's like, I don't remember the math on it. I should look it up and then maybe throw the statistic on the bottom. And maybe I'll do a little editing on this one. But there's something crazy, like just in a deck of cards, right? If you take a deck of cards, let's say 54, including the jokers, 52, wouldn't even matter. But if you were to calculate all the probabilities of all the different ways that deck could be shuffled, it's so vast that theoretically the same shuffling has never occurred in history of mankind. Okay. So if we look at, because it's like 52 to the exponent of 51 to the exponent of 50, right?
Mhm.
It's a massive, just with working with 52 cards, it's a massive equation to the point that we can't even begin to understand the probability just including 52. Then let's say instead of there being 52 cards in the deck, what if there's 8 billion cards in the deck, one for every person? So then you begin to see the grandeur of the multiverse, i.e. when our two worlds intersect. And then that takes me to sacred geometry, because to me, the seed of life, sacred geometry, which is actually my logo underneath the Dio Presso Liber logo, but those interconnected circles, to me, that's why that sacred geometry works, is because it shows all those interconnected, where those different lines intersect, which is like right now, your line and my line is intersecting, and that's creating a multiverse. And so if we take the probability of that, and really 8 billion is too small of a number, because every living thing in the universe is
Mhm.
contributing to the multiverse. So it's actually more vast.
Yeah, that's okay.
Now,
So
and then,
go ahead.
and the other thing that I'll suggest or throw out there to chew on too is in it. Let me summarize and expand. So in summary, I believe that each and every one of us are the gods of our own universes. And I don't want anybody listening to this to think that I'm, agnostic or atheist, or that I, am in some way disrespecting God, creator, mystery, whatever. I'm not. I actually believe very deeply in God, but I believe that we are fractions of God, that we have, or
Mhm.
fractals, and
Yeah.
we've split off in order for God to experience itself through the earthly experience. In any case, we have our own individual universes that God is experiencing within us or through us. And then we have the
Okay.
multiverse. And then we have what I call the innerverse and the outerverse. And the innerverse is a reflection of what's going on in the innerverse. This is one of the most important fundamental beliefs of shamanism that I try to share with people, is this idea that if you take a look at what's going on in your external world, no matter what it is, the universe being the mirror that it is, means that like whatever's happening in the external is absolutely directly what's going on in the internal. Does that make
Okay,
sense?
expand on that just a little bit.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. So I'll tell you how I learned this, because how I learned it is how it finally made sense for me. And this was like literally this lesson took me 3 years to even begin to accept into my reality. And what I mean by that is I had this mentor, his name's Michael. He's been my mentor for, almost 5 years. And for about 3 of those 5 years, every time something dramatic would happen, I would talk to him, we would work through it, and then he would gently try to say, "Hey Matt, like listen, what's happening right now in your outer world is just a reflection of what's going on in your inner world." And I'd be like, "Yeah, I don't know. I don't know." And I'd kind of push back on it. And it seemed way too simple. And it also begins to invite in the idea that when really, really horrific things happen, that's something that's coming from within inside me. So I had all this resistance to it. And then about a year and 3 months ago, so it was like late summer last year, 2024. And I call Michael up and I'm like, "Hey, like, give me a call as soon as you can. I'm about to, blow my last gasket here. I'm so angry. Like, my wife is disrespecting me. My parents did this, which was really also disrespect. I can't believe it. And the people I work with, this is happening, and I feel disrespected there." And I mean, I left him like a 10-minute, long, like profanity laced explosion, like, yeah, right? And call me, I really need to talk to you. Like, it's really important. And you know what he did? He didn't call me back or anything for 3 days. And then finally, he texts me 3 sentences and basically said, "Hey, Matt, I don't know how many times I got to tell you, everything that's going on in your outerverse is going on because it's going on in your innerverse. And let me know when you unfuck yourself." And then I was like, wait a minute, now he's disrespecting me. And so because he appropriately didn't engage, didn't enable me, I had to sit with that for, on my own. And I'm like, okay, so let me see if I understand this correctly. If he's saying that everything on the outside is a reflection of what's going on the inside, and if everything that's going on the outside, which even includes feeling disrespected by my mentor right now, then that means that there's disrespect inside of me. But that's not the case because, oh shit, wait a minute. I did that thing about 2 weeks ago when all of this cooked off that was showing real disrespect to myself, and the universe just shows up the way that it does as a mirror to kind of give you clues and hints. So instead of taking the disrespect that my spouse, my parents, my colleagues, and my mentor were giving me as personal, now it's my opportunity to look at it and go like, shit, there's some disrespect showing up in my world as an indicator to me of what's really going on inside. So instead of holding them accountable or blaming them or trying to fix them, it's like, oh shit, if I go back and clean up that thing I was doing and am doing that's causing me to disrespect myself, guess what? Other people are going to stop disrespecting me too, because the universe doesn't need to send me those reminders in.
Okay. Now that's making sense, right? So as you're saying that we're all our internal, what would you say, a universe in itself, right? And then when
Right. And it
we
has an inner verse and an outer verse.
right. So if you're internally not, taking time to reflect, maybe breathe, do those things, you're trying to, you've got internal chaos going on, then what's going to happen is you're going to see chaos externally too, is what you're saying.
Yeah, because here's like the psychological reasons for it too that I've come to understand
And this is
as
making
as
sense, by the way.
is this it's intense, it's good or bad?
No, it's making perfect sense now. Well, at
Oh,
least the
perfect.
way that I understand it, right?
Yeah.
Because you're right. When you're late, when you wake up and you got to jump out of bed because you didn't plan enough time, and now things internally are messed up. Your clock's off, but that's when you're going to lose your keys. You misplaced this. Everything externally is going to also be in chaos, right? Because is that where you're going with it? Because
Yeah,
that's what happens to me.
100%.
Okay.
And it
Okay.
compounds. It compounds because see, like, let's be honest. Like when I'm gonna that's me. I mean, you're being honest. So I'm saying is like, here's the perfect example. Yeah, I don't know if you remember when Admiral McCraven wrote that book, and it said something. I don't even remember what the name of it. I apologize, Admiral McCraven, if you're listening. But he wrote a book, and basically the title was something about making your bed. Like, the secret to life is making your bed, right? And I was like, good Lord, man, like, that is the cheesiest, like from a world of operators and having been at war at 20 years, like, that felt so like elementary school-ish to
Sure.
me, but he was
Too
genius in
simplistic.
that. He's so genius by saying that, because here's the reality. When we get up on time, not rushed, we make our bed, guess what we just did? We just had a small victory. And then we get rewarded with dopamine, which then actually becomes the fuel for more victories. In baseball, they say the best time to hit a home run is right after your last home run, statistically. So in other words, when we recognize what's going on inside of us, that mirror, right? That mirror becomes two things for us. Number one, it's a barometer, right? Like, anytime I want to figure out where I am internally, like, where's my spiritual, emotional, physical, whatever, like, attributes, just take a look around at what's going on right now in the minute of your life. Where are my relationships? Where's my, am I in chaos? If I'm running, am I losing my keys? All those things, right?
Right.
So it's a barometer. But secondly, it also becomes your mechanism, your catalyst. And what I mean by that is, if I want more love in life, I create more love for myself in here.
Okay.
Because that's the same as that small victory, because now the universe is like, shit, Matt really likes love. Let's give him more of that. Shit, Matt likes respect. Let's give him more of that. Matt likes abundance. Let's give him more of that. But if I'm not paying attention and I'm like sort of casually going through life, and I'm not disciplined, not respecting myself, not respecting others, wallowing in my misery, guess what? The universe says, oh, cool, Matt likes disrespect, lack of discipline, drama, and all those things, and says, oh,
We're just going to
cool.
reward you with more of that, right?
Yeah, we're going to give you more of that. So it works, like any mirror. Like, if I'm standing in front of a mirror, theoretically, you can't really tell the difference between either the mirror or the real person, right?
Right. Yeah.
And that's what I mean by it's two-way. It's a two-way street. It's both a barometer for you to be able to check in with yourself by looking at the mirror, the external, or it becomes a catalyst by just taking ownership over that internal and saying, ooh, I'm going to create a whole bunch of this inside of me, so that the universe starts rewarding it. In fact, I give people this thought experiment. I'm like, pick one thing that you really, really want a lot of and create it inside yourself, and go on a 30-day journey of really, truly, like, let's say it's abundance. Like, I tell people, put 5 singles in your pocket and, give out $5 a day. I mean, that's essentially, $5. We can all, we can probably all do that, or $1 or something like that, and give that away with the attitude of abundance of like, oh, I am so blessed right now. I'm going to give away some money. I'm so blessed. And you give that away in a place of gratitude, a place of wanting to help others, love others, all that. No judgment. Just, if you see a homeless person or somebody like that, and see if the abundance doesn't flow back to you.
Yeah. No, I mean, that makes perfect sense. It seems in my life that's been the case. As I think back, it seems like when you've got that structure and you take that time out that you need to do things the right way, as opposed to shooting from the hip, half-assing it, as we like to say, you almost know what to expect from it, right? When you get up in the morning, you make your bed, the reason that you're getting rewarded is because you're getting into a nice, clean made bed at the end of the night, right? So it's like you're preparing yourself for that. And so with what you're saying about giving those dollars away, right? It's kind of that same thing. I'm blessed. I'm good, and I want you to be here too, right? Okay, I like where your head's at with that. How's it working for you? As far as, since you've started doing this, right? We'll call it Yes Man, right? They did a movie.
Yeah,
Similar, right? Do you remember that movie, Yes Man?
I do.
Where
Yep,
it
good
was,
movie.
you're going to get rewarded from the universe based off of your actions, right? Don't say no to opportunities.
Yeah. I would say that it's actually going really, really well. I think that if I had to give a warning to this philosophy, though, my warning would be, just know that if and when you run a test on this, you take it to the laboratory, you say, and you test this out, like it puts the responsibility squarely on your shoulders at that, which is good. And I mean, that's great because now I can take ownership of it and I can make positive changes in my life. But the moment something happens that, takes me off that path, I can't like then divest myself of the philosophy and say, well, except this time I didn't cause that. When in fact, like, you've been like, oh, it works, it works, it works. I'm able to monitor, I'm able to lecture, it's working great, it's working great. And then all of a sudden a tragedy or some setback, like you at that point, that's where you got to kind of bite down, swallow hard and say, I guess I manufactured that one too. Let me go in here and look at that.
Right. And then if you're in the way of thinking that everything happens the way that it's supposed to, or everything happens for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Now, which one is it? Is it everything happens the way that it's supposed to, or everything happens for a reason, i.e., you created that in the universe by your action or inaction, because they both have consequences, correct?
Yeah, yeah. So that's a great question. I'm going to actually answer the previous question just a little bit more, and then I'll
Okay,
circle back to this one. Uh,
cool.
Actually, I feel like it's going really well, to be honest with you. I feel like almost all the relationships in my life right now are in a really, really good place because I've actually just started working on me and having the best relationship with me. And that's another one of the philosophies I tell people, and this is controversial because I hear people talking about this on both sides of the fence, but I have to say that I absolutely believe that take whatever adverb you want, right? Whether it's or verb, love, compassion, forgiveness, etc.
Hmm.
If extending unconditional love to my spouse was rated on a scale of 0 to 10,
Okay.
whatever ability I have to love myself unconditionally, so like let's say I'm at a 6, well, shit, I'm the person that's easiest to love because I can't run away from me, I can't divorce me, I can't hide from me, I can't lie to me, and I got me 24/7 staring me in the face.
Right.
So
Okay.
if I'm only a 6 at giving myself unconditional love, anybody else out there in the world is going to be 6 and below, like 5 and below.
Sure. That makes sense.
Right. So in that respect, the reason I am attributing better, healthier relationships with the people around me is because, and it's not selfish. It's the old adage about the oxygen masks falling out in the plane, right? You
Yeah.
put one on yourself first because you're no good to nobody else unless you do. So the priority is you. The priority is learning to love you, learning to forgive you, learning to show compassion to you, empathy to you. It's funny when I see social media out there and some of the people, especially in our community, celebrating the murders of people. It's like, man, you must fucking hate yourself, dude. You must totally fucking hate yourself to be spitting contentious lack of empathy, lack of love, lack of understanding towards some dude who was just innocently murdered. Like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess with that in mind, there's a lot of people that hate themselves too.
Yeah. 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 And so that's the secret, man, is like you got to get real narrowly focused on you. It's not selfish. It's actually, in fact, Ram Dass, who's one of my main heroes, he said it this way. He says, the only way I can help you, the only way I can heal you is by healing me. And I agree with that. But onto your second question though, if I can, I want to sort of reframe it to see if I understand correctly. But are you kind of asking about like the balance or the relationship between things that are like free will versus everything happens for a reason?
So it was kind of accidental. I said everything happens the way it's supposed to. And then I also said with that, everything happens for a reason. And my question is, which is it? Are we, and I think, you've kind of thought about this before. We've talked about this before, but is everything lined up and we're just walking it out? We've got that free will, of course, but nevertheless, like it's already been decided. for
Mm,
us.
yeah.
And now we're just walking out our destiny. Therefore, it would be everything happens the way that it's supposed to,
Hmm.
i.e., it's because it's happening to us. And then, or is it, everything happens for a reason?
Yeah. Um, I believe more in the idea that everything happens as it's supposed to. And actually, I guess I kind of look at like everything happening for a reason is almost in my mind. And again, these are just my opinions, but in my mind, I feel like those are kind of the same thing. Um, and generally speaking, and I mean, I was a grunt, right? Like I mean, I was never in the infantry. At first I was commo, then I was artillery, then I was special operations. But, that special operations was grunt lifestyle. The
Yeah,
only reason I say
absolutely.
that is because I have to boil things down to crayons
Yep.
and drawings and make it simple.
Very simplistic.
Yeah, and so in very simple terms, I guess what I'm saying is that when I break some of these philosophies down into very simple terms, it allows me to incorporate them in my life in very simple ways, right?
Yeah.
And so when I say to myself, like, everything's happening for a reason, I'll generally say the reason is because the universe is conspiring for my own best good.
For opportunity, for instance. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, even what feels like a setback is really just the universe trying to honor my best good, my highest good. And so from that perspective, I guess that I kind of see like anything happening for a reason and everything's playing out as it should be, kind of one and the same. And so the way that I've come to understand this is that a lot of our free will was exercised before we ever came to Earth.
Right.
Like, so for example, I'm sitting up there in between my last death and my next and the birth that I'm living now. And I'm like, I got my little pad and I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to choose to come into Earth as a white male. I want to be born into a Latter-day Saint family, a Mormon family. Let me see. I think that join the army is going to give me some challenges and experiences. And I list out all those things, right? And that was my free will. I chose those things. And a lot of people in this space call that your soul contract.
Okay.
And I look at a soul contract as kind of like, ooh, I'm in San Diego and I want to get to New York. And I think I'm going to go across over to Phoenix and then maybe to Austin. Then I'm going to pop up to Nashville and then, whatever. Okay, so San Diego to New York, and I'm going to hit these major waypoints, right? That's how I see like your soul contract going. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's lined out. The major things are lined out. You're going to do all these things, but there's going to be some detours along the way, and you're going to get to do some sightseeing along the way. But these things are set in stone.
Right. And so then when we say everything happens for a reason, that's like that internal guidance system, that GPS that's saying, okay, you're coming up to this exit. You're going to go ahead and take this exit now so that you make your waypoint, right? But how many of us have said, you know what? Maybe I'm not really feeling it right now. I think I'm going to go blow past that exit and go a little bit
Right.
further down the road, right? Then the universe pops in there with recalculating, and it's looking for all these opportunities to still get you to those places within your soul contract that you said you needed, but it allows for your wiggle room, your continued sovereignty and your own continued free will to play, but it's also going to keep a mind towards those waypoints and those final destinations.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
So
in other words, I don't see it as either. I see it as both.
it's happening the way that it's supposed to. And it is happening for a reason, whether it's, to get you to move forward, move towards that next thing. So there is reason. Again, it was kind of that play on words, because you hear people say, they say it, it happens for a reason, or okay.
And
The
we
conversation.
exercised our free will in creating it, and we still get to exercise free will in executing it. But
Yes.
if we go too far off a path, it's going to have consequences.
Yeah. Yeah. The question comes up, you think about those things in life that you see, those things that happen, and you got to question it. It's like, why did that have to happen? But there's got to be a reason behind it, right? Things don't just happen for no reason.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're right. Like, I mean, this is some real sensitive material depending on how far down that rabbit hole you go because, I don't know how many of my family are ever going to listen to these. They've pretty much all told me they're not going to,
They get to
which is
talk to us all
fine.
the time. Yeah.
So I might be throwing somebody under the bus here, but maybe they'll never hear it, so it won't matter. But I have a relative who has a terminally, like a very ill son, somebody who he's like 27, 28 years old, has never spoke, never walked, never fed himself. He's been a vegetable for 27 and a half years of his 28-year life, right? Yeah. And this conversation, this topic is extremely triggering for her because fuck you, Matt. Why would I want this? This can't be the plan. Nobody would sign up for this, etc. Right? And certainly me. She's saying like I certainly would never have in my right mind. There's no fucking way I would have signed up for this. I've changed however many 4, 5, 6 diapers a day for 27 and a half years and fed my son through a tube. No way. That doesn't sit with me.
Yeah.
And what I gently say back is, what if in your last incarnation, that was your experience and he was your care provider? And then when you both got on the other side, he said, look, if I go down there and have that experience, that'll propel me this far forward in my karmic cycle. And I just need somebody who'll be there for me. And I know I can count on you. Will you do that for me?
Yeah.
And then that's when she was kind of like quiet, like shit, like we don't have the full understanding. And my wife lost a child when we were dating. Sometimes I guess I simplify things by saying we lost a child because he would have been my stepson if we'd gotten married. And the anniversary of his death is coming up here soon. And so we're also heavily in the grief space, right?
Right.
My wife runs the Utah chapter of helping parents heal and things like that. And so it's a big part of our life, working with people who've experienced tragic loss and things like that, and especially children. And, the Helping Parents Heal organization, they embrace mediums. There's different nonprofits out there that help parents through these tragic times, and not all of them embrace mediums, but this
Okay.
one does. And what we've come to learn in that space is that there's an organization called IANS, the International Association for Near-Death Studies. And what they do is they double-blind test their mediums, meaning like no one gets an endorsement from IANS unless they go through rigorous testing, right?
Okay. Gotcha.
And so in that experience, in that space of grief, we've dealt with and spoken with and listened to many, many mediums. And guess what? They'll tell you that, like, even in the most horrific of circumstances, that it was all going according to plan. It really was. And we have to get to a place of like really, truly trusting that that's the case.
It's that ego thing, right? It can't be like it couldn't possibly be like we know too much. And we were talking about it at the beginning of this, right? It's like the more we know, the more we realize like how much we don't.
Which we don't. Yeah. And the egos, that's a great, that's the second time you've brought up ego. I'm so glad you did a second time because I meant to talk about it on the first one. That ego, man, like some people in this space will talk about ego death and all that. And our egos are so important to us. They're so critical. In certain circumstances, they keep us alive, right? Like, but ultimately we want to mature beyond that and then work with our ego. But it's such an earthly condition. It doesn't exist anywhere else in the universe.
Okay. What you just said right there. Ego doesn't exist anywhere else in the universe except for right here on Earth within humans, right? Because now is that part of the free will then, and like part of understanding what we know? Because seemingly, right, in order to have an ego, you have to have learned some stuff, and you have to believe that the knowledge you have is the right knowledge. And that's where the ego comes from, right? It's I know the best way of doing this. And again, that's what keeps us alive. It's sure the how to of things is where your ego comes from. Or I'm completely missing this.
No, I think you're right. I think the only thing I would add is that, yeah, when we get on the other side, we have a perfect knowledge. We have perfect understanding, because ultimately what happens is we go back into the collective consciousness of the universe. We're absorbed back into it. So that thing that God fractures, splinters off, and comes down here and embodies human form currently to the tune of about 8 billion of slivers, 8 billion slivers roaming around. When we die and get rid of that mortal body and go back into the collective consciousness, we're back into that oneness of it all. Like right now, I can easily say philosophically that you and I are one, Ryan, along with everybody else in the world. But it's harder for us to appreciate because I'm sitting over here in my own body, in my own universe. But the moment that we depart, the past crossover, right, we're going to go back into that collective consciousness of the universe. And therefore, the ego will be stripped away, and we'll be, we'll have a perfect understanding, perfect knowledge of all the things.
So when you hear guys talk about ego death, a lot of
Mhm.
times it's in reference to medicine space,
Yeah.
right? And you hear guys talk about they tried to fight it. They tried to fight the medicine. Their ego, was that their ego that's making them fight it because they can't just give in and let go? How would you discuss that topic?
Yeah. Yeah. So ego death is something that a lot of people talk about in this space. I think when I was brand new in this space, I had no idea what that meant. Then the more I got into it, I believed mistakenly that oh, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. I need to be working on ego death. And then I evolved to like realizing that no, you can't get rid of your ego. That's actually part of the human condition. What you can do is make friends with it and kindly ask it to sit in the passenger seat while you move into the driver's seat and you take ownership of those things. And then ultimately, for us, like, we don't have to necessarily die and leave Earth in order to transcend into the universal consciousness. Theoretically, that's possible here, i.e., Buddhist monks, Buddha himself, like all of that, right? There are examples of people who are documented to have transcended all of that, to transcend their ego. So I think that really truly is the goal. But to answer your other question more specifically, yeah, it's all of those negative emotions, things that we identify with, like fear, for example, is ego. And it really, truly, generally is fear that causes most of the people that I know that struggle to go in, so to speak, is their ego, is their fear.
So then I guess ego death, the way that it's explained then would just be getting over that fear and allowing yourself to just give in and accept what the universe is offering, or what the medicine, I guess, in that case is offering. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I always say that, ceremony is a metaphor for life and life is a metaphor for ceremony. And that's another way of looking at the mirror. And so when people go in, it's so counterintuitive, especially for people in our community, because wait, what? You want me to surrender? Wait, what? You want me to let go? Wait, what a minute. You want me to like not have any like have zero control over my body or my mind and hardly any over my body over the next 6 hours? Like everything you're telling me is raising red flags.
It's like I'm okay with that as long as you knock me out and I don't know
Yeah.
that I'm there. But if you're just gonna get me to that edge of control and then tell me to relinquish control of it, it's yeah, that's a hard thing to ask us.
Yeah, and you know this, but maybe the audience doesn't. But when I do ceremony, it's almost entirely for men, and mostly for veterans, and mostly for special operations community of veterans. And so this is something that I work with a lot, is helping our brothers learn that surrender actually is a power move. It's a power move, 100% a power move. but people don't see it because we've been so conditioned. Like, shit, we went to basic training, and the first break we were able to go to the, to the shopette and buy lickies and chewies. We also were sold, a t-shirt with a skull on the back with a rattlesnake crawling through the eye holes that say death before dishonor.
Right.
Right? Like, we've been conditioned from the very beginning of our military careers that we never surrender.
Never
And I
surrender.
understand that obviously from a tactical standpoint, and I get it. But when we're on a spiritual path, it's all about surrender. It's all surrender. And that's how you fight the ego death, is surrender. Or not fight ego death, but that is ego death. That is transcendence, is through surrender, by saying, like, coming back to the mirror, right? Like, if my spouse pops off at me or something, right? Like, my ego wants to, like, stop right now. Let's address this. I'm not having this. I'm going to fix you. Here's why. All the things. That's all ego. But
Yeah.
again, if I'm subscribing to the philosophy of the mirror, it's like, oh, wow, the universe just sent me a huge reminder about disrespect. I'm going to surrender my desire to fix her. And because I can't, and I never, ever will. So I'm going to let go of that bullshit. That's a pipe dream. I'm going to
Right.
just
I'm
go
over
work
here
on
in
me.
thought about as you're describing that. That's the universe is, man.
Yep. The universe is inviting you to surrender to it, to God,
Yeah.
to
And we
the
fight that
spiritual
urge
path. Yeah.
all the time because that's our ego that's fighting it. Yeah. So it's a pretty consistent balance then, that mirror. If you can stay leveled and stay, I guess, if you will, in the, I mean, what would you even call it? Like, stay in the light of it, right? Like, you're master of your own universe, and if you're continuing to master your own universe, then seemingly everything is going to be great. But when you're in chaos, when you're the master of your universe and you're in chaos consistently, everything around you is going to be chaotic.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess what I would call it, I call it a practice, because I think that there are things in life that we are meant to attempt to master, but never will. I think
Okay.
meditation,
Yes.
things like that, self, like I don't know that the goal should be mastery. I think the goal should be practice. The idea that I'm going to stay with this practice and continually improve, and that's it. That's the journey. Like, that's another way of saying it's not the destination, it's the journey that's important. It's not the mastery, it's the practice.
And that's the yin and yang of it as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're out of balance, the universe is working to get you back into balance.
Yeah. And so we look at those irritations, like, from an egoic perspective, we look at those irritations, those disrespect, that, confrontation, friction, whatever, and all the things of life, right? As, like, things being done to me, when in fact it's just the universe trying to, like, give you a little poke, saying, hey, here's what's going on inside of you right now. If you want this irritation to go away. And that's another way, again, that woman I was talking with, that client earlier today, like,
Uh,
those triggers, because that's essentially what the universe is doing, right? Like, it's kind of like poking that hot spot on the bottom of your foot. You're 6 miles into a 12-mile road march and you're starting to get a hot spot. That's
right.
your trigger, right? Just like that metaphor of a hot spot, your trigger is an invitation to deal with it. Like, the worst
Yeah.
damn thing that any of us can do if we're 6 miles into a 12-mile road march is just to say, get up, guy, suck it up and drive on. Because
Right.
how does that play out?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's effects to it, right? You either fix it or you're going to deal with, worse down the road.
Exactly. It's not going to go away just because I ignore
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Right.
So to me, a trigger is a lot like that hot spot, where it's like, oh, cool, I got a hot spot. I really don't want to stop right now. I'm making good time. This is going to cost me 10 minutes, whatever. but it's the realization that it's going to cost me a half hour down the road if I don't stop, and I can either give it 10 minutes now or I can give it 30 minutes later. Either way, I'm going to give it something. And so when friction arises in our lives, triggers, whatever they, in whatever form they show up, that's an invitation for you to go in there and do that maintenance, that healing, right? And that too is like because again, the ego is like, I don't need to fix this. You need to fucking fix you.
Right? Exactly.
That's like telling the road, like, hey, road, stop causing me hot spots, man.
Right. So that's the universal discussion internally, right? That's how we're being affected, how we're being balanced, and how the universe is keeping us where we need to be, right? But meanwhile, it's continuing to grow and expand. What do you make of that?
To me, that's just the infinite. As a kid, I was taught a lot about the principles of eternity because the LDS church talks a lot about like eternal families and things like that. And so I spent a lot of time like contemplating eternity as a kid, right? Like it was part of my growing up. And I never really understood it. I'd spend hours staring at the ceiling trying to figure it out. And ultimately, what I just have come to believe is that eternity is just an endless supply of the now, period.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
look at that kind of the same with the unfolding of the universe and the expansion of the universe, is that it's just endless. I probably don't have as much, I guess, experience explaining how I see the space as much as I do the time and space. But I guess you could expand that out and say if eternity is the endless supply of the now, then space is the endless well, just that space, the endless space that you can be in the now.
And within that, right? Because it's encompassing. What about a black hole within all that?
Yeah. See, no, I'm glad you brought that up because actually that's another thing that we've been talking about recently is this idea that like, I'm fairly convinced that I had a journey on oh, excuse me, that one was DMT. I had a DMT journey where I saw kind of like what I would only be able to describe as like the transition of the universe going from dying to rebirth in the cyclical nature of the universe. Everything's being a pattern or a medicine wheel. We're going through this and it's going to repeat. And so at a certain point, the universe is going to die and be reborn, and it'll just keep repeating again forever. And in that experience, what I saw was the universe like starting to collapse in on itself, and the more it collapsed, the quicker it got, and the quicker it got, the more it collapsed, and it was like a black hole. And it just collapsed in on itself and died, and then there was an explosion of white light, and then a new evolution was born.
So the way that you're describing that, and I guess a way to make that make sense, right? Or make it make sense. Right. When a lot of, I mean, the light that we see from these stars, from these galaxies, right? Like we're seeing into the past, right? Those things don't
Yeah.
exist anymore, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Those
Perfect.
things are older than we are. Like those things died before we even came into existence. Our planet, right? Those things. So we're seeing into the past with a lot of that. Or I mean, it's what it is, right? Does that blow your mind that we're looking into the past when we look at the stars?
Yep. 100%. Do you want me to make it weird?
Yes, make it weird.
Okay. Anytime you've done something that you might be embarrassed of, like, maybe doing something inappropriate on a beach.
There you go. Okay.
Well, the light reflected off of that event and went out into the galaxy, and there's no limit to it. So somewhere there's a visual record of me doing intimate things on a beach with my girlfriend in Hawaii, and it's floating through the universe.
Yeah, that did make it weird.
Sorry.
No, it's yeah, those are I mean, that's the conversation we're having right now, though.
Yeah.
So for us, right, for us, we're seeing these things coming that died a long time ago. And then for them looking back this way, right, they're seeing Matt on the beach with his girlfriend in Hawaii.
Yep.
I've seen that in movies, right, where they're
Bleach and
showing
alien eyes.
they're showing individuals from the those individual acts that
Well, and this is why scientists theorize that it's like when it comes to time travel, it's so much easier to go back in the past because those things have happened, have occurred. Like those intersections between the space-time continuum have been fixed. And like you said, they're reverberating throughout the universe. The future is still
Unwritten.
unwritten. And again, like, well, and that's another thing too. Like a lot of times we talk about past lives. I even conduct past life regressions for people.
Okay.
But in reality, they're not past lives. Because if we wanted to go even deeper down the rabbit hole, the reality is that, like, I don't know if you ever saw the movie, but the movie is attempting to explain what I'm trying to articulate right now. The movie being Everything All at Once All the Time. Did you ever see that one?
I haven't. No.
Okay, so it stars Jamie Lee Curtis as one of the actresses. The guy that, I don't know if you remember from the Goonies, the little Asian kid that had all the gadgets.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's our age now, right? So he plays one of the main characters as well. Really good movie. Highly recommended to everybody. I'm actually going to do a review of it on my channel here eventually.
Okay.
But yeah, essentially the quantum physics of it all is that everything is happening all at once all the time. So there is only the now. So technically our past lives, which I fully believe in, they're quantifiable. They're, science has studied them. This is a real phenomenon. It's not make believe bullshit, but they're really not past lives, they're parallel lives because because there can only
Because
be
there's
the
only
now.
the now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and time is actually folding back in on itself constantly. And so that also brings up the idea that we can change the energy of the past in the decisions we make right now. Like that's another proven and this is where I get super excited and geek out on this shit is because these ancient shamanic principles are actually getting more and more validated the deeper like quantum physics and string theory and all these things astrophysics go and our understanding of the universe where it's like like they're scientifically proving now that when you do things like stimulating like entangled particles that it's having an effect on the past history of those particles.
Wow. Okay, so and we talked about this from, from the perspective of standing at the top of the Grand Canyon, looking down into it and understanding those effects, and you're talking about changing the history, the energy of the past. And so for this, I'm starting to be able to wrap my head around this, right? An event took place at a certain time and date. There was an event that took place, and a certain energy came with that event. So now moving forward, you can bring new energy into that same place, ultimately affecting the energy of the past, right? And can you kind of expand on that a minute? Because I
Absolutely.
am starting to understand it, but not to your extent.
No, and you're doing great. And actually, there's not a lot I can because you got it. Let's see if I can expand on it a little. So, for example, all the like, or how should I say it? A theme running through shamanic space in every tradition is the idea that when we heal ourselves, we also heal our ancestors. And this is
Okay.
why so many ancestors show up in ceremony, is because they're literally counting on you to do the healing to help heal them. Because again, we're all one. It's
Right.
all one. So when we do our healing, we really are healing our ancestral line. We really are healing them, changing the energy of that past. Another way is, I'm so glad you asked this because it's going to allow me to talk a little bit about Ho'oponopono. Have I shared that one with you in our past conversations?
No, I don't think I've heard you talk about that before.
This is magic. I got to share this with you. Okay. So, Ho'oponopono is a shamanic prayer in the Hawaiian shamanic tradition. And there was a man by the name of Dr. Len, forget his last name, but Dr. Len, and he came from a Hawaiian shamanic tradition. His grandmother was a shaman. In Hawaii, there was this happened in the 80s. I believe it was the 80s. There was this criminally insane asylum. And it was so violent that they could not keep an employee around for more than 2-3 weeks and everybody would quit. So Dr. Lan was hired as the new director, the boss over the whole thing. And he literally I'm going to use a book here. He literally went into his office every day and he'd reach up on the shelf and pull down a book and open the file and pray this prayer over the inmate whose file was in front of him. Okay. It was, I think, less than 2 years later, every single inmate had been cured and was sent home, and they had to close down the insane asylum because there was nobody left the house. Okay.
Okay.
That's
I've
an
never heard of that.
example. Yeah, that's a real example, documented. Go to YouTube, go to Google. You can look it up, Dr. Land, Ho'oponopono. And that is the practical example of somebody doing something in the now that's changing the energy of the past. Now, we're all familiar with Jocko Willink, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Of course.
And he talks about radical responsibility, radical ownership.
Mm-hmm.
I want to introduce Jocko someday to Dr. Len because I'm going to teach you the prayer and then I'll explain why this is even more radical. Okay, so the prayer goes like this. It goes, I'll give you two versions. I'll give you the simple and then the elaborate. The simple is, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. The elaborate, now I've used this on relationships that were estranged.
Okay.
And I've prayed this prayer every time I felt the pain of that relationship. So if I was estranged from somebody and then I'm reminded and I'm feeling sad or despair because that relationship's not where I want it to be, every time I felt that pain, I prayed this prayer, either in the simple form or the elaborate form. Okay. And all of those relationships have healed. So the elaborate form is, and I'm sorry that I wasn't the person you needed to be. Please forgive me for betraying you the way I did. Thank you for being my friend in the time that you were, and I love you forever. So there's a simple version and there's you can embellish, you can add whatever you want to make it the more elaborate version so that it's more personal. And every time I felt that sting, I prayed that prayer the same way that Dr. Len did. And it really literally is a practical tool that you can use in your life to change the energy of the past. But now here's the radical ownership part of that. I want you to think about this really carefully. What Dr. Len was praying, like, let's say he pulled down a file from somebody who had been a violent serial murderer.
Right.
What he's saying is, I am sorry. Please forgive me for my role in this. Thank you for being my brother. I love you unconditionally. Now, what part does a psychologist who's running a criminally insane asylum, who's never met the person whose file he's holding in his hands, what part of responsibility did he have in creating that?
Zero.
No, actually he did. And that's the point.
So he's taking ownership of because he wasn't there.
I wouldn't say because he wasn't there, but because when we go back to the idea of transcendence,
Sure.
when we lose
That
the
we're
ego,
all one.
yeah.
Yeah. So we're taking on basically the ownership because we are all one.
Yeah.
If he's having an issue, I'm having an issue, right? So
Yeah.
you're apologizing and taking on that responsibility.
I know it's hard.
It is.
It takes a minute to get your mind around and because it's not like it's hard and complicated to understand. It's easily understood. It's harder to really truly internalize and believe. But essentially what Dr. Len taught all of us is that A, those things really can be healed, and B, the only way we heal them is through love, and C, we're only really just healing a part of ourselves.
Wow. Yeah, I'm gonna digest this for a while. I'm gonna have to look that one up too.
Yeah.
The way that I understand that now, it's so ultimately you've got to take on the responsibility of everybody all
Yeah,
around you.
you
Anybody
do.
that you come in contact with, you've got to take on that responsibility and that ownership of, their actions or inactions.
Yeah, the way that I would say it is that you're acknowledging the oneness of the universe and your role in that. And then you get to the place where you can begin to see yourself in others and see others in yourself. Because after all, you know, that idea that the parallel universes, the parallel lives, the infinite universe, the numbers of that. There's another philosophy out there that says that we will experience every one of these lives. So at some point, I'm going to live your life. Some point, I'm going
Yeah.
to live Marilyn Monroe's life, Elvis's life. I'm going to live Hitler's life. At some
Or you
point, I'm
already
going to
have.
be, yeah, or already have, exactly. It's just that this human experience right now and the veil and the ego is what's keeping me from remembering it. But the reality is I don't need to remember it. It already exists. Like
Right.
I was both the Jew and the guard in the concentration camp at the same time. And it's really
That's what's
those
hard to wrap your head
realizations
around.
that right, exactly. But see, once you begin to wrap your head around it, like boom, everything's solved. Like my crazy idea is that if everybody were to go out and do, 5 grams of psilocybin tomorrow or tonight, tomorrow morning would wake up to the end of poverty, the end of war, the end of crime, the end of whatever, because everybody simultaneously is going to see oh, shit, I'm you, you're me, we're all one, we're all in this together. Maybe we should like stop.
Right. Too simplistic, Matt.
I want to put my military training to work and start airdropping, bundles of mushrooms across major population centers.
Funny enough, with LSD, didn't they make aerosol out of LSD and they're just spraying around just like indiscriminately, like whatever to see what to
Yeah.
see what it would do to us and how we'd react. I mean, what year was that? That had to be 60s, 70s?
Yeah, that was you're talking about Timothy Leary. He also had a plan to he I don't remember how much he was going to put into the San Francisco municipal drinking water. Yeah. And I mean, A for intention, F for execution. I mean,
It's very simple, Matt, right? If everyone would just do it, then tomorrow we'd wake up and the problems would all be solved, right? So it's the simplest way that we can wake everybody up.
yeah, I get where he was coming from. And, like I said, I really truly believe that would, if everybody was to do 5 grams of psilocybin in one night, the world would change. I mean, just because it has to, I mean, that's the collective consciousness. But yeah,
We've got this veil to contend with, but we've talked about before, you can't unsee it. Once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. But we started off this conversation by saying how much we don't understand about what we're seeing at the same time.
yeah, yeah. And that's the other thing too about the radical ownership, the ho'oponopono that ties into the earlier conversation. Because that really now, when we started the conversation about the mirror, we were
Mhm.
talking about the unoverse, the singular
Sure.
verse, my universe. But when
Right.
we start to look at it from the collective consciousness of the multiverse, and really truly for Dr. Len, that serial murder, violently, psychologically damaged person in front of them, he knew deeply enough from a shamanic perspective that was also just another reflection of something inside of him too
Right.
that needed
Which,
healing.
yeah, another very scary thought, right?
Right. Because there's some horrific things out there.
There's some horrific people out there, right? There's some people that are doing horrible things, and to think that they are part of me, that we're all connected, that's tough, right? So is there a delineation or is there a line of like, no, those are just evil people and those are not connected to us, but they're part of the
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's what you'd have to think, right? Because evil exists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, you're right. Like I don't want to minimalize any of these things in any way, because in reality, these hard truths, these obscure philosophies can really, really challenging your mindset. Like I have another friend, um, I worked with this young lady for a couple years. She was kind of a friend of, no, not kind of, she's a friend of the family. Her family, our family were friends. I grew up with her mother. I helped her through a couple ceremonies, really good experiences. And then we started going down this road of having sort of these philosophical conversations. And she got hung up on, the idea that everything happens for a reason, and in the mirror, and because of it broke off contact with me and won't talk to me. And that's fine too. I respect her boundaries and understand why those were difficult conversations and why she doesn't want to talk about them anymore, which is fine.
Yeah.
I just also know that as difficult as they are to articulate, they're more difficult to internalize. They're even more difficult to then put into practice. But if we can get to that place of really, truly practicing it, like the mirror and
Mhm.
Ho'oponopono and all these different things, what it does is it allows us to finally, well, I guess one of the other things we talked about, which is surrender. It finally lets me surrender. Because that's the other thing, too. Like when everything is happening to me because someone else, I'm locked into victim mentality.
Exactly.
Like if it's always your fault, Ryan, that like I'm always upset and always pissed off or whatever. Well, guess what? Now I
Mhm.
have no control over that anyway. So I'm not only am I locked into victim mentality, but now I don't have any options to solve it.
Right. That's exactly right, and you'll drive yourself crazy trying to solve, trying to come up with that option. How do I solve this person's problems, right? Like I'm happy. I've got a happy life. What am I doing different? And why can't I just solve this person's problems? Like,
Yeah.
why is he
I got to
so
fix it.
angry? Why can't he get over it? All those things. But it's job security for you. Right, as long as people are pissed off and having to deal with, their themselves, it is job security because seemingly we're not gonna get through this by ourselves, man. Like, we need that guidance, we need that help.
Life, it's a team sport.
It is, but I could also understand what you were talking about before. When that veil gets removed, sometimes we don't like the answers that we get, right? Sometimes it's not all rainbows and butterflies, and that's what people think. And as soon as they see it for what it is, that it's work, that there's a lot behind it, and that there's gonna be bad stuff that happens, and it's just life. I don't know. I think people just want this fairy tale, and when it doesn't exist for them, yeah, it can be upsetting. But like you said, you've gotta deal with it, and maybe the fairy tale comes later, but you don't get to choose, right?
Yeah, no, I don't know. Like I think that, in some respects and you know this from our, what's the word I'm looking for? From our sustained friendship over the past couple years. You know that I believe that I was being prepared for a shamanic role my whole life, right?
Right.
So I'll bring up a book that you're probably familiar with that probably has nothing to do with shamanism, but I'm going to say that it does, and that is Nick Rowe.
Okay.
And so for the non-Green Berets out there, Nick Rowe was a Green Beret who fought in Vietnam. He was killed in the 80s. I think it was even maybe 1980 that he may have been killed in the Philippines. He was murdered. There was an assassination, but he's also the godfather of the SEER school, of all the SEER schools. And he spent 5 years in a prisoner of war camp in Vietnam. And he wrote a book called 5 Years to Freedom. And one of the biggest things that I took away from that book, 5 Years to Freedom, was that Nick Rowe had a personal relationship with God the whole time he was in there and was able to cultivate peace and serenity, even though he was suffering dysentery, malnourishment, torture, isolation, exposure, starvation. Nick Rowe was a man of God who had the peace and love of God with him throughout that experience. And to me, that's a really wonderful example of somebody who knew that intuitively or subconsciously about the mirror. And it's like, you know what? Like, if I want peace, zen, happiness, joy, the spirit of God, I'll just go here and create it inside of me.
Okay.
But it didn't change the fact that he was still in some real horrific circumstances.
Correct.
So,
So each life that we have, right? You talked about we're all going to have these experiences, potentially, right? In theory, that we're all going to be Elvis, or we have been, or whatever, right? And we don't get to change that during this lifetime, and that, I guess, was my point. Like, we have to face it, we have to walk it out, whatever it is, and whatever's on the other side of it, where we won't know until we do, but we don't get to just not do it. We have to face it.
yeah, yeah. I think that that's really the whole point of life is, like I think again, I was always a very sort of philosophical kid growing up and wrestling with these. Again, like I said, I think that's part of my, I think that the universe was teaching me all along. So my fascination with that has always been there. But those, growing up, I could never really understand, the meaning of life. Like why, It just didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
And I've gotten to the place now where I simply believe that the meaning of life is nothing more than to learn and experience.
Yeah. Just live it.
Yeah, just be. Just be.
You just
There's really, in some respects, and this goes really counter to a lot of the way that I was raised and lived in the special forces community, but I was such a driven person, you know what I mean? Like work my ass off, put in the extra time, first in, last out,
Yeah.
go, 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 go. I had a goal setting system where I would take an annual goal and I'd break it down into monthly goals and weekly goals and, daily benchmarks. And yeah, I mean, and now it's like, yeah, I think I'm just going to sit down here on my deck and enjoy the clouds. I had a hawk in my yard today, things
Nice.
like that. Yeah,
Prairie
just
hawk,
be.
is that what you guys get out there? Is the prairie hawks still like
No,
good size?
we get mostly red tail hawks here. In fact, I live around the corner from a high school, and their mascot is the Hawks, the Alta Hawks. So we get a lot of
Nice.
hawks. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you were out here, you see what we have out here. They're always circling, and I'm always afraid they're gonna come down and take my rabbit, but, yeah, he's smart enough to stay hidden, I guess. But, yeah, that's sitting back and just watching the universe happen, right?
Yeah.
How do you feel when you do that? Do you find it hard considering your led life, right? Being a Green Beret, being like driven. I think that's the word for it, driven, right? When
Driven.
you break down life the way that you had, do you find it difficult to just sit and be now? How did you get to the point where you can? Like, I need to understand that because I have a hard time just being. Like, and I think most Americans, as I look left and right, I see it's the same thing. They've always got a phone in their hand. Nobody's just sitting and being. So let's talk on that for a minute, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
How
no,
do you start? Do you start with breath work? Like mindset, like, all right, I'm gonna go just be. And can you walk me through it? Because I need help with this system.
yeah, absolutely. Lots of different answers coming through. So, no particular order. Here's some things. Here's some thoughts. First of all, one of my biggest recommendations to anybody who wants to heal or find a spiritual path is you have to do either meditation or mindfulness or both. Like meditation and mindfulness is shown to increase the folds in your brain. Like it will create more surface area. It will create more synapses. It's like being driven. Like when I would go to the gym for 2 hours a day, do an hour of cardio and an hour lifting. It's that for your soul. It's the same thing.
Mindfulness.
Well, meditation or mindfulness. And if I
Okay,
can, I'll break down the two of those a little bit for
thank
you.
you.
Okay, so for me, like, first of all, throw away any thought that you have about meditation. Because most of us, if asked what meditation is, and we're not practitioners of it, will say, that's that thing where you got to clear your mind. That's 100% false and
Right.
unachievable. Yeah,
Yeah.
we have a thing called the default mode network that requires your brain to constantly be in thought. That's the fact. So with meditation, what you're doing is you are holding on to a singular thought. Now, it might be a guided meditation and you're listening to a person's voice, but you're following every prompt, every thought that they're giving you throughout the meditation. Okay. Transcendental meditation is like repeating the same thought over and over and over again. Like maybe, I am full of love and light. I am full of love and light. I am full of love and light. And just concentrating on that and setting a timer for 10 minutes, closing your eyes, repeating that. That's meditation.
Okay.
Mindfulness is, and they're both about being present, about being, but this one is said with a little more emphasis on it. Mindfulness is the act of being present and experiencing the present moment through your five senses.
Okay.
Meaning, like, I might go out on the deck and I'll have a cup of coffee and I'll be sitting there. I'll be, I can smell, I notice that my neighbor's smoking a cigarette. Okay, they must have just got home from work. Oh, look at that bird. He's, that hawk is eyeing that squirrel. I can taste my coffee. I can feel the cold, brisk December air. It's
Right. Okay.
just interpreting everything that's going on around you through those five senses and almost like cataloging it.
Okay. And that's mindfulness.
That's mindfulness.
Okay. So we used to, in the military, we had a term SEALs, right? Stop, look, listen, smell, right? And you're just being as quiet as you can and you're taking in you just everything, in the immediate area, right? Like you mentioned the smell of cigarettes, right? So you're smelling. I can hear nature. I can hear the birds, which means if they're pleasant and they're around, then there's not a lot of traffic through here. But okay, so that's your mindfulness. That's conducting skills. And your goal when you started this, my brain wants to take me somewhere else, right? My brain, when I just try to meditate, my brain wants to solve the world's problems. You know what I mean? It wants to think about what time is it? Okay, I need to go pay this bill. I got to pick up my daughter. My mind it starts planning out solving problems as opposed to just being. And so I guess that's the hard thing for me. So by repeating a mantra, I am love and light, I am love and light, you're blocking out your brain's ability to go and focus on solving these other problems because you're focused on being love and light. And so if you do that for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then are you just trying to get to the point where you don't have to repeat it? Or
No.
you're just taking that time out. Nothing else matters. I am love and light. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Okay.
And so a couple thoughts. First of all, if we stick with the metaphor that it's the gym, then every time that my mind strays from I'm love and light, shit, I forgot to get the milk, my wife's going to be pissed, right?
Right.
That is an opportunity to steer your mind back onto I'm love and light, I'm love and light, I'm love and light. And to me, that's like a rep,
Okay.
right? Like that's that hard thing. Like I'm training my mind. I'm training. Like I got it. There it is. It's totally natural that I slipped and my mind went into default mode network and is worried about the bill or my daughter or
Default.
whatever. Let
Okay.
me again. And it's also like we said earlier, it's not about the mastery, it's about the practice. So don't beat yourself up and just acknowledge it's practice. And I'm cool with that. So we can do the meditation where we focus on a singular thing, or we can do mindfulness where we focus on, like you said, I love that analogy of SEALs, where all five of my senses I'm going through. Not only did I hear a bird, I hear a siren. Oh, there goes a teenager with a loud exhaust. It sounds like I hear a motorcycle, all the things. Then I can move on to
Right.
scents. I can smell the air. I smell the cigarette smoke. I can smell my coffee, et cetera, et cetera. And you just keep doing that and just keep cataloging, keep looking for new things because you're right. See, what happens then is like in either of those practices, your brain isn't focusing on the default mode network. It's focusing on the other thing. And that's what's building those folds, those synapses, those neural connections. Same thing with, say, for example, breath work. You're right. Because if I'm doing like a box breath, 4 in, hold for 4, long exhale out for 4, hold for 4, like I have to concentrate. Another one I use more than not more than anything, but I use fairly regularly is art. Because when we use both of our hands, so like maybe I'm, holding the paper or holding a ruler or, doing different things, I'm using both of my hands. Now both hemispheres of my brain are working and engaged. So that's
Okay.
creating neuroplasticity. And, I'm like so finite. I got to draw this line just right. I got to get the color just right. I'm doing my thing. I don't have the white space in my brain to think about all this shit.
Yeah. So through your practice, then through your purpose, right? Like a lot of people will use art therapy, right? Like the way you were just describing that, like I've got to be focused on this next line to where nothing else comes in. You're just in your if you want to call it B, right? Like that is
I'm in my
like nothing
Zen.
else. Say that again. Zen?
I'm in Zen,
Zen. Okay. Yeah, that's
which is
definitely
for
a
me
much
is
better
being.
term.
Yeah, to me it's the same. Like me being and not being like just being present and just being me and not thinking about all the stuff of the past or the stuff of the future, but just being in that moment. Like that to me is Zen. And the more we cultivate that, the more that the universe has to give it back to you.
The more we cultivate it, what do you mean?
Just that part of the mirror, like knowing that we can cultivate any of those feelings, whether that's love, compassion, forgiveness, Zen, again, whatever it is that we are actively like, if you want to be driven, drive on that. Like, learn how to love yourself unconditionally. That's cultivation.
Wow, and that's, I've heard anyway for the last, probably year or so, people have been talking a lot about self-talk and how important it is, right? Call yourself a dumbass, for instance. That's horrific. Like, it's horrible. The second and third order effects that come from, believing for that moment that you're a dumbass, right? As opposed to loving yourself through it and giving yourself grace, I think is the right word, right? We want perfection the first time we do something, right? And I'm horrible at this. I told you at the beginning of this conversation, I'm over there, trying to install a shower. I'm doing a shower for the first time in my life. And I'm beating myself up because it's not coming perfect, because it's not just, perfect
Yeah,
the whole way
because
around.
you're not a 25-year veteran tile layer and you're holding yourself to that standard.
That's right. I need to love myself a little bit more and give myself some grace.
Which another thing I'll tell you, like I read recently, is that one of the things that helps us become more present, like really, really rapidly, is radical forgiveness. Like, if you can come to a place where you forgive yourself of everything, you don't need to go back and revisit it over and over and over again, and you can be present.
I spent a lot of time, a lot of my current life, like today, right, where I'm at. Like, if we were to look at that, and I think I can't remember whose analogy this was, but an hourglass, right? The sand's coming through an hourglass. Like, everything that's on the bottom of it, that's our past, right? We can't get that back.
Yeah.
But I spend a lot of time down there thinking about that stuff that I can't get back, that I can't fix, as opposed to up here in the now and in the present, right? Like, I don't forgive myself fast enough. So I like how you said that. Like, just be okay with it, that I fucked up, and like, that's okay.
Yeah, it
I
is
don't know.
okay. No, like, again, like, I mean, we're running out of time here. Maybe we need to do another episode, but in the reality is, in my opinion, that, and again, this is controversial as hell, so I probably shouldn't say it with 10 minutes to go, but here we go anyway. Maybe it's a cliffhanger for the next episode when we come
There
back.
you go.
But I really don't even believe in morality. I don't believe in right and
Okay. Just
and well, and here's why. Um, I believe in the 13 laws of the universe, laws that God created, that the universe operates on, like the law of balance. That's another way of saying karma. Like, the universe has to maintain balance, right? Okay, so the 13 laws of the universe matter to me, and I believe that they help us to understand how the universe operates. But anything below that is just man-made. Time, man-made. Governments, man-made. Borders, man-made. Money, man-made. Politics, man-made. Morality, man-made. Religion, man-made. So when people hear this philosophy and kind of raise their eyebrows, like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? Wait, hold on, time out. I say this, I'm like, would it be unethical and immoral of me, illegal of me even, to, let's say, dig up the body of my grandmother and parade her around town today? Like, most people
yeah,
say, yeah, that's pretty unethical, immoral, and illegal. Let's not do that.
yeah. I mean,
And then I say,
it's
well, there's this island over in the South Pacific, and that's actually one of their holidays, and that's actually how they remember and celebrate their ancestors. So morality is sort of subjective based on time and location.
absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that we can go a long ways towards forgiving ourselves of all the things that we've done right or wrong, because ultimately it's a matter of perspective and a matter of, and again, I'm not saying that to justify heinous acts. Don't everybody go out there and be
Of
like,
course.
well, Matt
Yeah.
said there's no morality, so I'm going to start, killing people and stealing things. Like, no, there's still consequences for our actions, for sure, but not so much in the, good and bad, God and devil, heaven and hell type of way. If that can help you forgive
Yeah,
yourself of
that's and I think you're right. This is a bit of a cliffhanger because this and we'll deep dive this I think in another time, but you bring up good points, right? Just because somebody got together, a group of individuals got together long before we got here and they decided that this is the right way of doing it and this is the wrong way of doing it and we were born into that this is the right, this is the wrong, and so we were raised that way, right? Call it ideology if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So our ideologies tell us that we should not dig up our dead relatives and parade them around. Like that's our ideology. Like we believe that that's wrong. But you're right. If we were born into this ceremony, where that is just how we do it here in America, then our ideology would, again, it's definitely a topic to, I mean, shit, every country has a different ideology than we do, right? We would call it right and wrong, in America, we would say no, they're wrong for doing that, or they're right for doing, or we're right for doing this. And we were born into a set of laws and a set of rules that we had to conform to. But I think, and all of them are rooted in Christianity. So everything that we follow and that we believe was just, a set of rules that we were born into.
Yep, handed to you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You were
again,
told.
like the whole game theory works really well for me in terms of understanding life on Earth.
The gang
Game
game.
theory.
Okay.
Yeah, like in other words, we're all playing this game. Everybody on Earth is playing a game, right? And
Right.
you and I happen to get the version that, loads with things from a predominantly white, Western, US Christian framework.
Right.
Somebody else is running a game here on Earth where they were born into, a South American experience. Yeah. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. All those identities, all those paradigms, all that conditioning was something that we just were born with into the simulation, into the game version that we're running.
Yeah. And, just real quick, and you've heard this, right? They did a study with, what were they? Fleas, right? They had fleas born into a jar with a lid on it. And so those fleas within the first 24 hours, they learned this is the highest I can jump, right? It's kind of like the Truman Show. This is my world, and this is all I can do within that world. But and then when they dump them out, that is the height that they can all jump, right? But when in actuality, when they're born into the free space, they can jump like 20 feet, right? So it's that set of rules that we got born into, and some have a different set of rules.
It's all subjective, in my opinion. Hey, we're coming up on the end of our time. I want to do a quick, a quick word from the sponsor. We'll leave it there as a cliffhanger, and then I'll turn it over to you for any other final thoughts. Again,
Okay.
I'm not a paid sponsor yet, but hey, Olipop, reach out to me. Your soda is amazing. Big fan. It's good for your gut. It's good for your mental health. And tastes delicious, and only 2 grams of sugar. If you have children in the house, you want to help them with any bullying issues or the crossroads of like living your authentic self, being your authentic self. Larabelle and the Crazy Tree, available at Amazon. 100% of the proceeds go to Donor Connect and saving lives. And then we have From Green Beret to Shamanism, One Man's Journey to Heal. 100% of proceeds go to getting veterans into life-saving treatment. So both of those are tax deductible. Final thoughts, comments, questions?
Yeah, I mean, my final thoughts that I'll leave with this, right, is what I've learned so far, and we'd mentioned it before, but it's we're not going to get through this by ourselves. We absolutely need each other. The way that we're going to learn is by confiding in each other, letting each other know, like, hey, this happened to me. I guarantee there's you're gonna get met with a different response than what you think, right? A lot of people don't want to be the burden on they don't want to be a burden on their friends, right? And when they're struggling, they want to just keep to themselves. But the thing that I've learned in this space is, man, we're here for each other. And when you guys are struggling and when I'm struggling, man, like I reach out to my boys, to my bros, and we are not going to be able to figure this out by ourselves. So, final thoughts I would say is just this is a community thing. Like life is a community event. It's not an individual task. So, yeah, just be happy to be part of this.
I couldn't agree more. I think those are, we can deep dive philosophies all we want. At the end of the day, it comes down to, being surrounded with good people and good community, good friends, good family. And I'll just close by just saying, I freaking love you, dude. You're a good man. You've been really good to me, very kind and generous. And I appreciate your example, your mentorship, your generosity, dude. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you again for hosting, and I love you too, brother. This is a real friendship, man. Like, and we need each other. So I thank you for the guidance and all the help you've given me along the way, brother. Can't wait to do it again.
Thanks, bro.